I was trafficked from the time I was 3 years old until I was 24. I had been groomed from the time I was 2 years old. My trafficking began at 3, and I was always told that what was happening to me happened to everyone. From the outside looking in, our family was the perfect family. Every time the doors were open at church, we were there, and I had learned from the time I was little bitty that when we were on the outside, our family was perfect, and I was not to deviate from that at all. Behind that mask was a father who was sexually abusing his daughter. A lot of the faces that were coming into the room to participate were faces that I recognized. It was a small community where most people knew everyone. So the people that were coming into my room were pastors at a local church. They were teachers, they were law enforcement in their uniforms that were coming into my room as a little 3-4-year-old girl to abuse me and to pay to abuse me. At 5 years old, I was getting ready to start kindergarten. I remember my dad sitting me down, and he said, "Sarah-Beth, you can't tell anyone what you and Daddy do. They're not gonna understand." And he told me all of these horrible things that would happen to me if I told. He also told me it was my responsibility to explain away any injuries. I remember an interaction with a teacher where she told me that the injuries that I had didn't make sense for falling out of a tree. And I remember the terror that hit me in that moment. I was frozen because I thought that I had broken one of my dad's rules. And so after that, whenever I had injuries that I couldn't hide, I would physically throw myself out of a tree because I needed injuries that matched falling out of a tree. My faith throughout my trafficking experience was very much a roller coaster ride. I started out as this little girl in church, listening to the pastor from the pulpit talking about a loving, merciful God, about a God who saves, and I desperately wanted that. I remember when I was 5 years old is when I made the decision to dedicate my life to the Lord. I prayed the prayer, I was baptized, and my trafficking continued. And I remember being so heartbroken in those years after I was saved. I had given myself to God, and He was supposed to save me. There were hopeless moments where as a last-ditch effort, I begged God to just take me home. And that was how I connected to God. Like, please, just let me die, Jesus. Take me to heaven. I don't want to do this anymore. At 10 years old, we had a traveling pastor come to my church. And he is giving a sermon from the pulpit, again, about this loving and merciful God, about this God who's bigger than all of our struggles, about this God who is Father, who is friend, who is comforter, who is rescuer. And I walked up to him after the sermon. It was just me and him in the sanctuary. And I told him that I was being hurt and I needed God to save me. He told me that I could be forgiven, and his way of making me new was to lay me down in a pew and assault me. And he told me that that was what was necessary for me to be cleansed. And I walked out of that church thinking that that needed to happen so I could be set free. When it was time for me to go to college, my father told me that I had earned the right, as long as I always made myself available to him when he wanted me. I got to the point where I would rather die. So I attempted suicide, and it was a serious attempt. I spent several days in the ICU. My unsuccessful suicide attempt led to me getting kicked out of my college, which meant that I still had to go home to my father. I stayed angry for a really long time. I had followed a bunch of survivors and anti-trafficking organizations, and I had started putting bits and pieces of my story out there when I got an email from Safehouse Project. And it was the first time that anyone offered help more than just telling me I wasn't praying hard enough or I didn't believe enough. That was a turning point for me. In 2020, my trafficker attacked me. It was a really bad assault. I remember I picked up the phone. Safehouse Project connected me with a safe house. And all of a sudden, I have these women around me who are advocating for me. And it changed my life. I relocated. That was 2 years ago. And in the last 2 years, I feel like God has made me a different person. I have connected with God on a level that I never thought was possible. And I have watched him step into some of my darkest memories and show me the light. He has allowed me to get back into college. I will be finishing my degree this summer, which is something I never thought was possible. As a child being trafficked, I didn't really have dreams. But now, with all the changes that God has made in my life, I have the ability to dream. And I have the ability to look towards my future and ask God, what do you have planned for me? He has healed me in ways that I never thought was possible. A pivotal moment in my faith journey was coming to the realization that God will not force me to do what he wants. Such a drastic difference between my earthly father and God the Father. God did not make this happen. God is using it. God is using the darkness that was forced into my life to show me his light. I never thought that I would be in this moment, sharing my testimony, finishing my degree, free, healing, and loving God.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Key. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can reach more people with encouraging content like you just watched, and so you never miss a beat. See you next time, and God bless.